This is Zaya Younan from El Septimo, and this is one podcast that you should not miss out. We are here at Cigar Inc. again, studio, which they have one of the best online place to buy product and also great studio. And I'm here with the director of product development for Abbott Laboratory that has developed this little device that can save human life, prevent heart attack and strokes. Mehdi Asgharzadeh, welcome here.
Thanks for having me, Zaya. It's an honor to be here with you as
now,
well.
Tell us what you do and how this little product saves human life.
Right. So pacemakers have been invented, in the 50s. The very first pacemaker was an external device.
Wow.
That was basically, you actually had to wind it and let the heart, basically assist the heart to beat and all that. But eventually in 1958, a Swedish doctor invented an implantable pacemaker. And the very first patient was also Swedish who received the first implantable pacemaker.
So from there, you went all the way to making this.
So one thing I need to tell about myself, my career always has been in the cardiac rhythm management. Ever since I started working,
Which is number 2 or number 3 killer in the United States.
Right. And so we started. The company I actually started working for was called Pacesetter Systems Inc., and it was a company here that originated from Sylmar. Alfred E. Mann basically came up with that. And eventually Pacesetter Systems Inc. was bought by Siemens, the German company. And then another company in the United States, St. Jude Medical, acquired it. And then Abbott took over St. Jude Medical.
So to create this device, you must know human anatomy. You must know how heart functions, right?
Correct.
You must know all of that. Because
Absolutely.
this little mechanical device interact with the soft tissue of human body, right? And the reason we brought you here actually is that since you are heart specialists, they were able to work and create something so beautiful, something so usable to save human life. And you know so much about human heart, human anatomy.
Right.
We brought you here, for example, for you to start asking me a question.
Sure.
For you to ask me, and either I'll prove to you that smoking a cigar, which is natural tobacco, is healthy for the heart, or you prove to our audience, since you are expert, well accomplished, develop this device that is not. So you and I, let's go. You ask the question, I'll answer.
Right.
Any questions you want.
So you're
except my age. Huh? Don't ask that question.
No, I mean the typical thing is, of course, in any industry, in medical industry, you hear that smoking and drinking is hazardous for you and all of that. And of course, I know about cigarettes and I know how harmful cigarettes are. But I'm also learning about cigars, and
you smoked. You've been smoking in the last.
I have smoked that. I don't, just like Bill Clinton. I don't inhale.
I see, but you smoke it.
But I smoke.
But yesterday we had a small event. I think you had 2 cigars back to back or more.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I see.
Yes. So cigars is something new to me. Just like how I started with wine, you appreciate a good wine when you learn about it.
Of course.
I did not know anything about cigar, and I went through the Cigar 101 with you. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting to a point that I can differentiate between a good cigar and not so good cigar. Yeah. And I think I'm getting there, but I still have a lot of work to do.
Sure, not a problem.
To get there.
So you and I, either you prove to audience that smoking cigar is bad for your heart, or our proof is not.
Okay.
You're a scientist, I'm a scientist, but I'm a different scientist than you are, right?
Right.
So let's have debate, because these people that are listening to us really want to know that, because they read a lot of garbage and rubbish by all media, government-provided data that is diverted. It doesn't reflect on the cigar. It keeps bringing cigarettes data, which is harmful for you, bad for you, Do not smoke cigarette. It's not good for you.
Correct.
They bring those data to the cigar. So they're trying to control human being. The government wants us to eat whatever they want, say whatever they want, do whatever they want, right? So ask me the first question about cigar and how is it that is good for you?
Right. So let me start with this preface that I have some just like alcohol in general. The theme is alcohol in general is not good for you, but then you read articles that red wine is having a drink once in a while of red wine, it could be good for you. It could be healthy for you. I am not there yet with respect to smoking. What I know about cigarettes is that it has so much chemicals, so much additives that burning them and inhaling it and getting it to your lungs, it's actually bad for you. I fully understand that. I don't know much about the world of cigars.
So let me explain that to you. So you brought up three factors. One was wine and spirit, right? Let's talk about that because I happen to be expert in that because El Septimo is the only company in the world, in the entire world, that produce the largest portfolio of wine and spirit. We produce white wine, red wine, rosé wine. We produce cognac. We produce vodka. And in a few months, we're going to release our gin and whiskey, right? Liquor is made from fruits or vegetables, right? And it's fermented, right? Anything fermented is good for your body. Of course, you don't overdo it. You drink in moderation. It's very good for you. You're right. Drinking wine in moderation is very good for you, right? Cigarette, you mentioned cigarette. Definitely bad for you. Do not touch it. And do not stand next to someone that smokes cigarette. It's dangerous for you. Now, cigars. Since you are a scientist, you should know these. Well, you probably don't because you've been brainwashed by other things. But I want you to Google this after our session. The natural nicotine is diuretic. That's the scientific function of a natural nicotine.
You're specifically talking about nicotine.
I'm specifically talking about nicotine in cigars, which is natural, right? And when it's diuretic, it dilates your artery systems, right? Respiratory system. You breathe better. The blood flows easier into your systems. And that's why when you smoke a cigar, part of the stress you feel you have, it goes away because you have better blood flow and oxygen to your system. That's why when you smoke a cigar, you think you can focus better and think better, right? In the same token, when the blood flows and oxygen flows freely in your body because your arteries are dilated, so the bigger volume of blood and oxygen flows to your, it depends on the human, it reduces the possibility of a heart attack by stroke from 25 to 42%. The data shows that, right? Because it's a simple scientific of diuretic, your artery dilates, blood flows, you get stroke from lack of blood flow, right?
Correct.
Right? You get heart attack from lack of what?
Blood flow.
Blood flow. So if you Google natural nicotine is diuretic, and if you Google the function of diuretic is dilate your artery, that's what they call it diuretic. If dilate your artery, and with dilate your artery, both flows into your system. And the research has shown that smoking cigars, because natural nicotine in it, reduce the progression of Alzheimer, dementia, reduce the effect of stroke, of Parkinson's disease on a human being, and reduce strokes and heart attack 25 to 42%. So I know you're probably not going to admit that because you're not going to be selling too many of these if people start smoking cigars. Correct. But that's the fact if you Google it.
But what I'm getting from what you're telling me here is a difference between what tobacco is and what folks perceive as getting carbon dioxide to your body. Mm-hmm. I think one differentiation between, correct me if I'm wrong, one differentiation between cigarette and cigar is you don't inhale the carbon dioxide in you. And that nicotine that you're talking about that is essentially good for you is through basically the body fluid and all of that exists in your mouth. Because I can't smoke a cigar and inhale it. I get suffocated.
Well, When you smoke two cigars yesterday, you essentially inhale. Sometimes you do it by accident. Second of all, the compound of cigar, nicotine, goes to your survival and you swallow it, right? So it goes to your blood system. But when you were talking about dangerous gases that are created by inhaling it, are usually created by tar, right? And in a natural nicotine, you find very little traces of tar. Tar comes from all the additive and components that they add to cigarettes. And when you light that cigarette, you burn the cigarette, a tar becomes very toxic air that you swallow. But that does not apply in cigars because cigar does not have that much tar because there is no additive or chemical added to tobacco before the tobacco is rolled.
So how do you differentiate between a cigar that is $1 and a cigar that is $100?
There is a big difference. The difference comes between different prices of food, different prices of ice cream, different prices for cars, different prices for home, right? Quality matters. The component we use in cigar matters. There's all kinds of tobacco people can use. We at El Septimo, we only use grade A tobacco. There is fermentation to take the pneumonia out of the tobacco. We ferment them slowly but for a long period of time to be able to get all of that in and leave the natural oil in. So we pay attention on design, on quality, on experience of human being with the product, right? That is our number one priority. We try to control the cost, but we try to control the cost to doing things smarter, not by using a cheaper tobacco, not fermenting them long enough, just rolling them fast, getting them to the market. So even if I was a guy who was on the minimum wage, if I choose to smoke a cigar, I rather smoke a cigar less, but at higher price, than put a $5, $7, $10 cigars in my mouth. I would not do that.
So how do you ensure? I'm assuming that you don't add any additives to your tobacco, and in terms of quality of the tobacco growing and everything, how do you do that without any chemical pesticides and things like that to basically let your plantation grow?
Yeah. Well, number one, we use precision farming, right? Because you plant a seed into the soil, right? And then seed becomes a plant. But the plant develops his geometry, his physiologically from the soil. Seed is a seed, right? It's a constant component, a product. But the soil around it, right? A soil around it determines what plant should be, right? And sometimes when the soil is rich with certain mineral, the plant has the highest resistance to diseases. So those type of plant, you don't have to use much or any pesticides or fertilizer on them. They grow robust, they're strong, and they can resist it. And on certain crops that you actually find out that you have to use pesticides or fertilize, we choose not to use that crop. We choose to reject that crop because we don't want to put it in there. Look, I smoke cigar, my wife smokes cigar, my 5 children smoke cigars. I'm not going to put something in their mouth that is hurtful or harmful. I'm just not going to do it.
Right. So how about geography? I see United States being agriculturally a very rich country, rich soil and all of that. But then you hear about Cuba being the king of cigar plantation and all of that.
Yeah.
Can you make the same cigar quality? Can you make the same tobacco quality as so-called Habana tobacco here in the United States?
First of all, human lives forward. Human lives his life looking at this minute and looking forward. And today to say Cuban cigars are the best is totally wrong, right? The New World cigars made in Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, they make some cigars that are far better than Cuban cigars, right? Because they all use Cuban seeds naturally, but they have evolved over the last 50, 60 years. They have evolved. They have learned how to harvest, how to do precision farming, how to use technology to raise a better crop. And Cuba, if you go there, I go there all the time. The country is very poor. They have not invested in making good cigars because they don't have the money to do that. And because of that, the quality of the cigar has dropped for the past 20 years constantly. That's why the sales has dropped significantly. And the geography is very important. The environment outside of the soil, above the soil is very important. Under the soil is even more important because everything is born from under there. And one of the reasons that countries like Dominican Republic, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Ecuador make it very good because their soil, these land didn't exist millions of years ago. They were created by volcanic effect, right? And we all know volcanic effect creates a soil that is unbelievable rich in mineral, right? United States been there for millions of years, right? There has been hardly any volcanic effect in United States to create a soil that is rich in mineral, right? The other reason is that in America, they overuse the soil. Soil has nutrition, but if you plant same thing in that soil, after 5-10 years, all that nutrition is gone, right? So that's why we use precision farming, rotating crops, and retiring crops for 5 to 10 years, and then go back plant on them again, and let the 5 to 10 years rejuvenate, bring that quality of the mineral from under the ground to above the ground, which is caused by the water pressure, water table under the earth.
I see.
Right?
I see.
And the other component of it, which is very important, is that we plant. For example, we have learned to make very fine tobacco. Not only you need magnesium, iron, phosphorus, but you need a component of calcium. There are regions in Cuba that produce good tobacco. They have calcium in it. So we take big stone of calcium and we bury them under the ground. And then we shadow peen it. We shadow peen it by letting the mineral escape the soil and escape the stone and go into the soil.
Wow.
Like by fracking. They use fracking in oil industry.
Right.
We use shot peening in the soil analysis.
Right.
And these are the things we learned actually in wine industry 50 years ago. We use it in wine industry, but it's not used in tobacco industry until El Septimo came in and revolutionized the industry.
That's great. Zaya, something about you is, I've known you for 20 years, and I have learned so much from you. And I can actually attest that I've been inspired by you. I did not know the difference between residential real estate versus commercial real estate. I didn't know what the term ROI meant. And I learned that from you. I didn't know what cap rate was and all of that. So one thing about you is that your knowledge is very broad, and it is more impressive when I hear from a real estate tycoon about tobacco and all of that. I want to ask you a question, if I may. Again, I've known you for 20 years. In our geopolitical environment, I kind of feel and sense, because when I study our history not even going long very back, but I'm looking at the last 200, 300 years, there were always changes. There were always turning points. One of the major ones in our, past 100 years, of course, was World War II, September 11th, COVID. Those were some of the turning points that kind of changed our world. And I kind of feel like we are somewhere at the turning point. What's your view of, from here on? What is your view of 2025 and beyond?
Yeah. I feel very good going forward because I think in the past, politicians had too much power, and most of the politicians are idiots. I said that, Zaya Younan. They're not a smart human being. They don't have to work hard like you and I to make a living, right? They go become a politician, they do whatever interests them, and then they make a living out of it. And they don't ever have to worry about getting fired, right? And they think of certain things and they do it without analyzing it, without underwriting it, right? Where we do as an engineer, as a mathematician, you and I do it all the time, right? For example, they are trying to restrict smoking cigar in the United States. But many states in the United States now allowing people smoke marijuana. Some states, some cities,
Mushrooms.
Portland. Yes, drugs, other drugs. They are allowing people use dangerous drugs like cocaine, mushrooms, marijuana. And that's all okay, right? But when it comes to natural nicotine, that the science, not politician, science, right? The chemistry, the physics of the earth says is actually good for you. They're trying to stop it, and they're trying to block it, and they try to stop information. I wouldn't be surprised if he posts this podcast and is pulled out within a few months from now, right? Because there are a lot of evil forces in the world to this day that the agenda of going forward is their agenda of how they want to see the world, right? And we all have to live by them. And shame on us for electing these politicians. But having said that, I think 25 years will be a good year. We'll go forward. I, as a cigar manufacturer, El Septimo, I will fight any government level anywhere in the world to show them that they don't know what they're saying. They don't know what they're talking about. Smoking a cigar is good for you. Natural cigar is good for you. And they should allow people to decide if they want to smoke or a drink or not, right? The last thing we want is for politician control what goes in our body. And it's funny, they're not controlling the drugs, right? Do you know one of the reasons why we have so many homelesses? Do you know why one of the reasons we have so many homelesses in California? 5 years ago, you wouldn't see homelesses in California. The reason you see it now because it was 5 years ago that they make smoking marijuana law. Right. So these people who make average salary, minimum wage, they can go buy marijuana, smoke it. It's very expensive. Then they develop a habit. They buy more marijuana. Then they can't pay the rent. So where are they going to end up? In the streets. That's why you see human walking in the street homeless, they're hallucinating. They're talking to themselves. It's known that the making of marijuana is out of control and is so strong that it causes certain people to hallucinate. But that's not the case with cigar. We don't want to talk too much about others. We want to talk about the fact. Now, I'm impressed by how this metal,
right,
this little thing,
right,
protect people from having a heart attack.
Right.
Now, real fast, in less than a minute, tell me, how does this get connected to your heart? How do you do it?
Right. So the traditional pacemakers, they were, a bigger device that were enclosed in a titanium can, and inside of it you had the electronics.
And it was bulging out of you.
Yeah, it will. You essentially generate the pocket just like my pocket here, and
you put it in there,
and you put the device in there.
And it was obviously with leads connected.
Leads connected, so you always have the potential of infection.
And this is leadless.
This is leadless.
So how does it communicate to your heart?
So basically, what you do is, at the end of this, there is a button.
So you basically move it all the way to your heart,
right,
to some robotic
So
thing.
You have a delivery catheter.
Right.
That you
and it goes all the way to your heart.
It
gets screwed to your...
It is screwed
to the muscle.
To the heart muscle. You turn it 1.5 turn. You release it. You make sure it is making
thank you
contact.
so much for your
Thank
innovation. Now you heard it from two scientists. Me, Google me, you find out who I am. And him, a scientist who was involved with a team of other people that they created this beautiful life-saving little product that it gets screwed to your heart, and when your heart stops working, it pumps it, it brings it back to the life. And both of us now say that. Let's say it together. Now you agree that smoking natural nicotine is healthy for you.
On my own behalf.
Yes.
On my own behalf, yes. I would
yes. And on my own behalf, I authorize this message. Smoking cigar is very good for you. So if you want to have a pleasure, smoke a cigar, don't listen to politicians. Go grab one, enjoy life. Read this, which is important. Life has no rewind. Enjoy every moment of your life. Thank you so much, Cigar Inc., for allowing this beautiful podcast to happen.
As always.
As always.
It's always a pleasure.
Always.
Seeing you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.